Okay, YouTube. I'm gonna stop the camera shaking here. There we go. Okay, so since I completed that last project, I had to go into the gun case and look for a new project. So went in my gun case, and this is an old Mauser rifle from World War II, German gun, all matching serials. The bore on this is one of the best bores I've seen on any old rifle. The bore is absolutely immaculate on this, so it should be a good shooter. But I'm not crazy about the stock. I mean, there's a couple of... It's not a very good stock. You can see this plug here. Over on this side, it looks like the plug goes all the way through, and then there's another repair that someone did at some point here. The finish is not good. There's dents, there's dings, lots of stuff on this, and it looks like this whole gun is still coated in cosmoline. You can see a little bit of it right down here. Get up there. Cosmoline, which is the waxy stuff that they dip these guns in when they're going to store them. So all this cosmoline, this thing needs to be taken apart and needs to be cleaned out completely. The stock, I'm sure, is full of cosmoline, and that's going to be fun getting out. I'm going to see if I can steam that out using some crud cutter and grease. Crud cutter and baking soda seems to help with getting out all the junk in here with steam. That seems to help get that out. But I want to get this stock into a nice finish, get all the junk out of there, and maybe put a mahogany stain on this or something. I'm not sure if I'll go for walnut. Usually the Russian guns I'll go for the mahogany stains because they usually are more reddish, but maybe I'll go for an English walnut or something for the Mosin. Not Mosin, excuse me, the Mauser. Lots and lots of dents and stuff in here. You can see right here, right up in there. Probably can't see it too good on camera, but there's dents. Lots of scratches and little nicks that I might be able to take out with some sanding. We'll see. But it's a good gun, all in all matching serials on this gun. So I'm going to see if I can get in a little better shape. I'm going to completely tear down everything to clean out the cosmoline, including the bolt. Take the bolt apart, take the front sight off, because that typically with these guns you'll get cosmoline all up in here, and it's just going to be gunked in there underneath this spring and everything. So I will be doing that. This is the project that I'm going to be doing next, because it's still winter in Wisconsin and I'm still bored. And there's my bolt. I'll see if I can manage to get a view down the bore on this gun somehow with this little stupid phone camera. But the bore on this is really just, it's like brand new. And there's the side of the gun with the cool Russian markings there. Alright, so I will be giving updates on this. This is probably going to be mostly about the stock, but maybe I'll do a teardown on the bolt as well. And I'll string all this into another video. Okay, got the first step done on this. Now, the process I'm using for stripping this is different than I used on the last video, and this one I decided, because it's an old Mauser, and it's got a lot of cosmoline and old stuff caked on, and the guys over at Iraq Veteran 8888, Eric and Chad, have a good series of videos that walks you through how to do everything from removing the finish to steaming out the old finish and removing dents. They've got a great series of videos. So I'm just showing what the stock looks like after each step. If you watch the first video, what I've done on this from that video is used crud cutter and hot water and a scrub brush to get all of the old finish off of the exterior of the gun so that I can get a good look at what's going on with this. And this is quite the beat up old rifle. I mean, look at that. It's got this repair here and this other repair. I'm not sure what in the world happened to this gun. I don't know, maybe a bullet went through there or something. That needed this kind of a plug, but that's a little bit over the surface. It's not flush by any means. The stock is in very rough condition, and but it's all matching serial numbers on this gun. Everything matches up, and the bore is just awesome on it. The bore is great. So my goal is I want to make this as nice as I can. I'm going to steam out what I can, and I'm going to repair the rest using the epoxy technique that I showed in my video on that 22 stock. And I'm hoping that's going to turn out pretty good. Now I know you're going to have your purists out there who are going to say, well, you should never do that to an old gun and refinish the stock like that. Well, guess what? Gun mea et precepta mea. My gun, my rules. I like doing this. It's fun refinishing them, and, you know, if anyone doesn't like it, you can do what you want with your guns, and that's all cool. You know, so all of you YouTubers out there who might get offended at this, you can click off and go somewhere else, because I really don't care. This is a wonderful old stock. I love fixing these things up and getting them so that they're in really nice condition. I know that a lot of people like the old finish, and that's cool if you want to keep that, but I like fixing these up. So this is the first step, and the next step that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using some crud cutter and some of these old towels. They use cheesecloth in the video over there on Iraq Veteran 8888, but I've got tons of these, so I'm going to be using these with baking soda to steam out some of the dents, as well as raise up some of the old finish. You see some of these areas where it's darker here. It looks like maybe there's some stain in there that still needs to come out. So I'm going to be working on trying to get as much of the old finish out of the wood grain as I can by steaming that with an iron. And all of this is covered in Iraq Veteran 8888's video, and the first video in the series where they're doing this, just the initial removal. Crud cutter, by the way, great product. Works to take the finish off really good. Probably not so good if you've got an old rifle like my old SKS had a big thick lacquer finish on it, so that probably wouldn't work so well. Crud cutter wouldn't work so well on that, but for a gun like this where it just seemed to be like an old oil, a lot of oil that had seeped in, yeah, the crud cutter works great on this. So I'm going to be going and steaming this and doing some of the getting out the old stain, the old finish, get this wood back to as close to a clean finish as I can. You can see here there's a lot of, on the end grain, it looks like there's a lot of oil and finish left in there, so I'm hoping a lot of that comes out, and I will be doing a video when I'm done on that stage. Stay tuned. Okay, just finished the step in this process where I steamed this stock, all of it, the entire thing, and then after the steaming was done, I did the baking soda with the crud cutter wash, and then let it set with the rags on it. And I was curious about that to see, after having it steamed and so much stuff coming out, I was curious to see how much it would bring out just in that step alone. So I used clean new rags on that, and it definitely brought out more stuff. let it sit for about 10 minutes with the rags and the baking soda and the crud cutter on it, and then rinsed it off. And wiping it down, there's still stuff coming out. There's still plenty of stuff coming off. My guess is with a rifle like this that's been soaked in cosmoline for so long, you could probably do this for a month and you'd still get dirty rags coming away from it. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to let this sit for at least 24 hours, let it dry off. It's still pretty wet. And then I'm going to take a look at it and see what I think with, there might be some more areas here near the butt where some of the stain or oil didn't come out the way I wanted. So I'll assess it then, and depending on how that comes out, I'll do another steam job on it, or I might just start filling and doing the rest of the sanding and all that. And I'll give an update when I'm ready for one. Okay, quick update here. Doing some work on this stock still. This is the Mauser stock. I got some defects that I've filled in here. Right here, nice and smooth now. One thing to watch for when you're sanding is you want to make sure that you get everything off. On this one, you can see on the surface of the wood, that light area, that's more of that epoxy that needs to get off there. And that was what it was like on this one just not too long ago as I was sanding. And there was another one right here that's now smooth, but you want to watch for that epoxy, that extra epoxy, to be gone, and you shouldn't be able to feel anything as you rub your finger across the surface. When you're filling in big gouges like this one was, sometimes you will get a bubble or a pocket or something, and you'll need to reapply the epoxy the same way with the masking tape and then resand it. That's just one of the things you got to do with one of these banged up stocks to get in good condition. And let me see, there's a couple other areas that I still have to sand down. Let's see, okay. But the main reason I wanted to do this video, or this little update, is because when you're working on these old guns that have been soaked in cosmoline, you're never going to get all of it out. What that means is rough sanding. You're going to get junk in there real quick. You're going to get a lot of that oily wood fiber, and it's going to gum up your sandpaper. And I've found, I can't even remember the username who had this idea, but using these are drywall and plaster sanding screens, 180 grit. Using these are great because they're still going to get gummed up, but all you do, bang it on something, and it knocks out all of that junk that's in there. You can also use compressed air to blow some of that out. But you can get a lot of use out of this pad just by knocking that junk out of there and then using it to sand. As usual, you want to make sure that you're going over the whole piece, not just one area. You don't want to just focus on that. Just keep going over the whole area. And it takes some time to get that epoxy off, but if you take your time, that's going to be well worth it. So that's the update, just those couple of things, and using these screens works really, really well. So that's that, and when I'm done with all these dings, I'll be on to the next step, and I'll do another recording then. Okay, one more quick update here. In sanding this area down, this needed a lot of work. I had to fill this with epoxy several times because this was not done very well. Where is it? There it is. So I had to do a lot of work on this. There was a lot of sanding to get it flush because this piece really stuck up in a bad way, this little plug they put in there. So I had to do a lot of sanding. What that did was that made this side just a little bit different than this side. So when you have to do work on a side to make it flush and make it a nice smooth finish, be aware that you may have to do the same work on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and sand this down a little bit more and make it match this approximately. It doesn't really have to match, but for those that are maybe a little OCD, you like it to match. If you're one of those people that's more like, a Picasso type, and you just, well, whatever, I just made it because I'm like right-handed that way or something, well, have at it, have fun. But if you want it to be even, just be aware that if you're sanding on an area like this to get it all flush and even, you gotta look at the other side and see if you want to even that out. And that's what I'm in the process of doing. So I just wanted to give that little update since I realized that this is going to need a little more work on the other side. Update on this. I've got most of the imperfections filled in on this. There was one that was difficult to fill up here. And it's looking really good. But there was one more thing, a couple things I wanted to address in this video. Here's the last imperfection that I could find. When you are working on a stock that has lots of these, what I'll do is while I'm going through and finding them, I'll have a pencil and I'll just circle around them. And when you're working with 5-minute epoxy where you really don't have much time, it's definitely helpful to know exactly where to go. You see those pencil lines, you know exactly where you're looking to put the epoxy. And then it's really easy to just go and fill them in quickly as you're working on that 5-minute work time. And also, the 5-minute work time is just the work time. That's not your cure time. On the 5-minute epoxy, what it will do is as it's curing, it will retain a lot of its elasticity, and it'll be very pliable. And what you want to do is you want to wait until it's brittle, because if you keep it, if you try to peel the tape off when it's in that pliable stage, a lot of times you can pull off the epoxy from within the defect, especially when you're working on woods like this that have been oiled and you can't get all of the oil out. One of the things that I find helps if you have one that's stubborn like this and it doesn't seem to want to hold is I'll take something sharp and I'll rough up in there really good. Usually get a magnifier to look and make sure that you're getting all that good. And then before I apply the epoxy, I'll go over this with some acetone. And wiping down the entire stock with acetone is a good idea also, because it does pull a little bit of the oil out. You'll notice if you have a clean rag, it'll be a little dirty by the time you're done. But on stubborn defects like this, where you're really not able to get it to stick the way you want, use acetone and rough up the bottom so that epoxy has something to stick to, and that will usually fix the problem. That's what I had to do on this end right here. These did not want to stick in at all, so I cleaned those up, roughed them up, put some acetone on, and then it stuck just fine. So this is the last little defect that I have to fill in, so I'm going to get that filled in. And then I think what I'm going to do is I was thinking about not using a stain on this because it's already a pretty dark piece, but because there's a lot of defects on this, I think I will do a quick 5 minutes of walnut stain on this, and I'll use the stain conditioner, the wood conditioner, before I stain it to get it as even as possible. But with defects, especially like this, I want to get it dark so that it will hide those defects a little bit better. I think it'll look a little bit better. So I will be putting a coat of walnut stain on this. This is just a water-based stain that I'm using, that I've had laying around. And then I will seal the wood grain using a sealer. That's another thing that I didn't do on the last video, is use a wood grain sealer. So I'm going to try that and see if that helps me out with filling it in with true oil when I finally get to the true oil on this. But that's the update. Just a couple little tricks that I have used here that work pretty well, and I will be giving an update when I have one. Okay, one more update for this. I did get the walnut stain on here. I lied, it wasn't a water-based stain, it was oil-based. My mahogany is a water-based stain, and I prefer the oil-based stains. Actually, most people that do this kind of work do. So it did exactly what I wanted it to. Made everything a little darker. Made it so that the imperfections that I fixed are not quite so glaring. Though that dot, there's just no getting rid of that unless you want to paint the whole stock. But it's looking pretty good. The next step I'm going to do first is I'm going to let this dry for at least 24 hours, probably a couple of days. And then I'm going to do a wood sealer on this one. I want to get the stain in there first and let that dry up and set up. Then I'm going to do a wood sealer on this and see how that affects my True Oil using that. So that's it. Just a quick little update. The next time will be after the sealer is applied. Probably won't be much different. Okay, YouTube, quick update here. I got a couple coats of sealer on the stock, and it's looking really good, nice and smooth. We'll just have to see how much of the True Oil it drinks up on the first coat, and that'll tell me how much good the sealer did. Now the sealer that I used is this stuff, Permalin Sealer. I got this from Brownells. So, seemed to work pretty good. The stock is feeling very, very smooth in most parts now. So, I'm going to be putting 1 or 2 coats of True Oil on, and then we'll see where it goes from here. But it is looking good, and I'm hoping for some good results from this. And I will have an update when I'm ready to show you what's the latest step on this. Okay, quick update here. I got the first coat of True Oil on, and first thing to note is, I'm not sure if this is going to show up in camera. Probably not. But it turns out all paper towels are not created equal. I did get some flecks that came off of these paper towels that I was using. So I went back to the Kirkland Signature, the Costco brand paper towel. So just be warned, some paper towels are gonna leave some dirt behind on them, some lint type stuff. I'm not terribly concerned about it with this first coat because it's just gonna buff out real easy with the steel wool that I'm gonna be using on this to get ready for the next coat. It looks like the wood filler did a great job. I noticed that this did not drink nearly as much True Oil as I had expected it would on the first coat, because those usually do. It usually does. The wood drinks up a lot of it on the first coat. But if you'd use a sealer on it, then it does seem to help. So it just seems smoother to me than it usually would be after one coat. So I'm hoping that down the line that's going to translate to a really nice finish. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put another coat of True Oil on this, and I will be giving an update after that. Okay, YouTube. Andrew Midget here with a final update on this Mauser project that I had going here. It's finally done. Got everything all put back together. All the cosmolines cleaned out of all of the metal parts, as well as all of the stock that I could get, and it's smooth now. I'm getting tangled on things on my desk. There we go. Looks really good. It came out really nice. Nice and smooth. Not perfect, but most of the defects are out. Back together nice, fully functional, and looking really good. So, with just a little time and effort, you can take a stock that was beat up and in bad shape and make it look nice. A little side note here. You'll notice on this side, got a lip here, and it's flush on the other side, and it looks like someone was really aggressive, and this was like this when I got it, with sanding this side, because this side is much thinner than this side. I took measurements on the inside when I had this apart and was beginning to work on it. With that in mind, I just made sure and gave this section that I knew would be visible a little more attention than I normally would, with the true oil and sanding and making it smooth. But you know, you get something like that on a gun like this, and you just, you know, do your best to make it look good. But this is a nicely refinished gun now. Can't wait to go out and shoot it. And yeah, a very fun project gun. Now on to the next one. Thanks for watching.